Yeah, so I'm Erin Kelly, and I had the pleasure this spring of working with Annika. She's an 11th grader at Carroll Senior High School, and she has a really big passion for learning a variety of topics, which is really cool, from art to engineering. And I think the best part is her ultimate goal is to become an astronaut, which I think is super cool. I loved space as a kid too, so really excited to hear about that. And I really loved, we worked on our project together, and hearing Annika and her ambition to look for practical solutions to real world problems. And so I'm really excited to intro for Annika and hope you enjoy her project.
Thank you. Yeah, as Erin said, my name is Annika R. I'm a junior at Carroll Senior High School in Southlake, Texas, in like DFW. Yeah, next slide, please. So my mentor was Erin, who you just met, and she works at BNSF Railway in sustainability, which basically means that she's helping to develop the railway's long-term sustainable vision and their relationship with the communities. So basically just trying to reduce their environmental impact and make them more sustainable as a whole. And she lives right near me in Arlington, and some of her favorite things to do are running, trivia, reading, and volunteering. And a little fun fact about her is that she's also a geologist in training. Next slide, please. So my project was actually a research paper, and it's entitled The Feasibility of Vibration Energy Harvesting in Industrial Transportation. So as Erin said, I really wanted to study something that has like modern real world applications given global problems, and specifically in energy infrastructure. As we see in the news all the time, there's problems with oil, especially recently, with fossil fuels, which is why energy is so important, especially right now. So I wanted to kind of delve into that and see if there were any solutions that I could research a bit more. So the main topics in my paper and in my research were battery powered diesel trains were my initial inspiration. And then I started moving towards aircraft and industrial machinery as well, energy harvesting and vibrational waste. And the overall process that I went through to create this paper was outlining, kind of just creating a really, really rough draft of what I wanted to include, doing preliminary research to see how many of those points I could hit, having conversations with professionals and delving a little bit deeper into that research and into the specificities I found. And then from that, creating a thesis, and then doing my more foundational and secondary research based on that, and then finally constructing my paper. Next slide, please. So the most important information that I'm not going to read my whole paper, that would be pretty boring for all of us, but the most important information that you would probably be able to gather from my paper is that vibration energy harvesting uses sensors in the ground or on a piece of equipment based on what you're using it for to record mechanical vibrations, then convert them into electricity. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, this is a really sustainable form of energy because there are all types of vibrations that can be collected from various different types of technology and used for all different things. And vibrations, or using vibrational energy, isn't going to exactly output things like carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. So it's not going to have an effect on the environment when collecting it and using it. And as I also said earlier, railways and trains are kind of my original inspiration, which I kind of got from Erin and her work and the things that she knew about that. And also because upon looking a little bit deeper into that, I saw that there's also a concern of vibrational waste surrounding trains like diesel trains, as well as the overwhelming amount of fossil fuels that they use, because primarily trains right now use diesel fuel, which isn't very sustainable at all. And especially what we found in the United States is that there are a lot of pretty much original train tracks that are used, and steel on steel train tracks, which means that there's a lot of vibrations that come from that. And vibrational waste refers to the vibrations that are output into the environment. And though you might not notice them much except for like the rumbling you feel when you pass a train, they can actually have long-term impacts on plant life, on animal life, and even on other infrastructure in the area. which is why it would be good to try and collect those from the environment and use it for something else. So to create a really thorough research paper, there needed to be a lot of understanding about the research that I was collecting and how I was going to present it, because obviously not everyone's going to be an expert in something like vibration energy harvesting. So there are a lot of kind of niches that I had to explain a little bit in my paper. Next slide, please. So this is a model of just one type of machinery that can be used to harvest energy from vibrations. So if you can see like the little K at the top, that means the spring constant. So basically what this model is representing is the force from a vibration, which is coming from the bottom, and how it would push a pressure sensor or something like that, and then collect that energy into potential energy that could later be used and convert it into electricity to use for something. And as you can imagine, this wouldn't be a very big sensor or device. So energy from vibrations wouldn't be able to power like an entire train, for example, but it could be used to power smaller things on a train, like or on other types of transportation, like communication systems, lighting, navigation systems. So things that are equally important to the function of that transportation. So planes, trains, and construction machinery, like cranes, for example, tend to emit the most vibrations, which is why I really wanted to look into those. And all of those are used heavily in industry, especially the bigger ones, which is why they're going to have even more vibrations. So I wanted to look at vibration energy harvesting and related to those. And as I said earlier, vibrations can cause long-term damage to the environment, and they're very highly overlooked as like an environmental stressor, which is why I also thought it was interesting to look into that. Next slide, please. So this is, there was a page I wasn't able to fit for my paper, but this is in general is my paper. So it goes over the history of vibration energy, which was really interesting for me to include because it's actually existed for decades, but when it first became a possibility, the technology simply didn't exist to implement it anywhere. So it kind of had to be put on hold until more recently, when new sensors and things have given scientists the opportunity to start looking at it again, which is also why it was so interesting to research, because I did want to do something very modern, and I didn't think you could find anything more modern than this, especially it's only become popular since like 2021. So it's a very modern form of energy collection that's being implemented. And then I kind of delve into the areas for different types of transportation that it could be used for, and then also the limitations of it, because with anything, with any possible solution, there's always going to be a limitation. There's never going to be any perfect solution. So I address that as well in the paper. Next slide, please. So my overall experience over these past couple of months was challenging, but it was a really positive experience for me. The best part by far was getting to work with my mentor. I probably wouldn't have researched anything like this if I didn't have her as my mentor. So her passion and also the information that she knew about her work and about sustainability and productivity in relation to railways, I couldn't have gotten that from anywhere else. So it was really valuable to get to learn from her. And I was also just given the chance to talk to professionals, have the chance to go to like sustainability events through Erin. And it was just a really cool opportunity to get information and learn things that would normally be out of my reach. So the most important things that I learned is that research is a process that is going to include mistakes. And like Victoria also mentioned as a lesson, the first idea is probably not going to be the best one. And I definitely saw that evident in my process for creating this paper. I would say that probably 75% of it wasn't actually writing the paper. It was like the preliminary research and creating new theses. I probably created like 5 or something and didn't really like any of them. And I looked at so many different types of places that I could be researching, which I found to actually not be sustainable for me to research. So it definitely took a lot of persistence to try and find something that would actually be feasible to move on into a paper. And in relation to that, good research takes time. You can't just create a thesis and then just go and write a paper. That's not going to give you something that's worth sharing and worth like actually presenting good information with. And I would say the greatest challenges in this overall project were that my scope of interest was not well researched by the scientific community, and therefore it was really difficult for me to report on and to collect information on. I wasn't going to be going out and doing my own research, even though I did kind of want to. So I had to trust the research of other professionals who were able to do that. And I believe that my first scope of interest was actually inductive charging in railways, and there was pretty much nothing on that. And also vibration energy harvesting is like a primary power source for trains, which through my research I found to be pretty much impossible. There just wasn't going to be enough energy, which is fine because even if you're wrong, that you still learn more information. So though it was challenging to like find out that I was wrong, it was overall a better thing for me to learn instead of trying to pursue something that was going to lead to a dead end. And then I also needed to decide who I was going to be presenting to and how I was going to present my information. So I had the choice to be presenting to a scientific community, so I could make my information a bit more advanced and make it more geared towards scientists and then or businesses, and then let them decide if they wanted to implement that technology and make it more of a motivator to use it. Or I could present it more to the average person, someone who might be buying from companies that use this technology, or who might be supporting environmental problems, in which case I would have to make it a bit more simplified, a bit more general, but also more definitive for them because they aren't exactly making the decision about it. I'm kind of just presenting that to them and letting them just view it as a problem that they've probably never heard of before. So yeah, the audience can really change the type of paper that you make. So I had to decide that too. And ultimately, I think I went with more of a general paper going towards a general audience as opposed to the scientific community. And I was kind of more definitive, and I laid out things a bit more simply to make it easier to read. And as far as presenting my information goes, I think I always knew that I wanted to do a paper. So that wasn't really a difficult decision to make. I believe that's my last slide, but yeah. So if anyone has any questions.
Great job. That was fantastic. And as somebody who I'm hearing might have been your audience, I think you presented it really well and in a way that I could understand. And I'm really excited to even learn more. We have a hand up. We have Luana.
Hi, yeah, congratulations. That's I'm excited to read your paper actually. So I'm gonna ask you, do you intend to publish it somewhere? Have you already published? Because I would love to read it.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm actually going to be working with Erin a bit more over the summer to try and finalize it, because I do want to publish it into like a teen journal, but a lot of journals have specifications for their publications. So my paper is probably going to need to change in accordance with that. But yeah, I am hoping to publish over the summer.
Amazing. I hope it works out.
Thank you.
Awesome. We have another hand up, Smriti.
Hi, this is so cool, and congratulations. I think you also walked us through the research and how to write a paper and think of your audience and stuff so well. I wanted to ask a little bit about the research. How did you find papers or whatever you were looking into to read and to learn from, and what was navigating all of that information like?
Yeah, so I was fortunately given the opportunity. I take a capstone class in school, which is a research program. So before I started this mentorship, I'd already been exposed to doing really in-depth research and finding peer-reviewed sources and things like that. So that was definitely really helpful, because I learned the databases that were really useful, because you can't just go onto Google and search for a source, because anybody could publish something there. Peer-reviewed sources are really important if you're going to be writing a paper and saying something as definitively as like making a thesis and saying that this is an energy source that should be used. You want to back that up accurately. So the way I did that was primarily using Google Scholar, which is a really great place to find a lot of information about that. And like I said, the sources were either very new, like 2021 up, or they were from like 2007. And the more modern information you have, the better. But I had to kind of search through all of those to find modern and accurate information. And as I didn't put that here, but in like our midpoint check-in, I kind of explained how I went through each of my sources and created an annotated bibliography, which for me was reading through the source and then saying the most important information to get from it and how I was going to apply it to my paper. And that kind of helped me organize my thoughts with what I was specifically going to use a source for. So yeah, that was kind of what researching was like.
Very cool. Thank you.
Great question. What other questions do we have for Annika?
I have a question. I didn't know if anybody's hand was raised. Sorry, I'm not raising my hand. I'm trying to just manage this, presentation. So I have two questions actually. This is amazing work, very different from everything else, but so refreshing. I wanted to know, of course, this is under Erin's guidance too. So congratulations to both of you. How did you pick this topic? Because you even mentioned something like inductive technology for railways. I'm like, how does an 11th grader know about this? So can you tell me how you picked this topic? That's my first question, and I'll ask my second question after that.
Yeah, so I think that the railway aspect of this was the most important in leading me to my question. I just decided that since Erin works at railways and she has so much information about that, I decided that I would be able to gain the most knowledge if I did something that she really had a lot of information about and a lot of perspective to add with, to use to help me out with that. So I have always been very interested in sustainability. And obviously when you think about a train, you think about like the smoke coming out of it, like, that they have an environmental impact. So that automatically made me think about different energy sources, which pretty quickly brought me to vibration energy harvesting. I did not know what that was before I started this, but I did know about inductive charging, which is basically just like, if you've ever used them, like the flat kind of chargers that you can just place your phone on. It doesn't require a plug-in or anything. It uses like coils to charge something. So I thought that could be interesting because Erin showed me a really interesting article about inductive charging being used on cars, like being placed into the roads to charge cars as they drove. So I thought that could maybe be a possibility for trains, like being planted into the rails, which I later found was not going to work, which is okay. But I think in researching that, I found some mention of vibration energy harvesting, which eventually led to this. But yeah, it wasn't something that I like knew about. It kind of started with just thinking about railways and their environmental impact.
That's awesome. My second, it's not a question, it's a suggestion. So you were thinking about the audience, and it could be the scientific community, or it could be the general audience. And I was wondering if you and Erin thought about policymakers. It's clear that this is a subject that has not been researched, and it's clear that we need to actually do something, we as in the human race, to for the future of our planet. And it's also clear that there isn't enough funding for it because there's not enough research. And I can imagine the impact an 11th grader paper will have if you send it to Congress. So please consider this. I'm making this plea to both you and your mentor.
Thank you. I don't think we thought about that at all. I think we're thinking more from a commercial perspective, I guess. So that's definitely very interesting to hear. I do really like that idea, actually.
Congrats to both of you.